go. Oh, I'm just gonna make sure that it's all righty. Hello, everybody. Today we're talking about how trauma can be linked later in life to infertility. So I have Erica here with me today, and her specialty is working with women who are dealing with infertility and they don't really know why. So, Erica, if you would like to give us a little bit of your background and we'll go from there.
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me. So where do I begin? I started later in life with my fertility journey, and it wasn't a surprise to me that it was difficult for us to get pregnant. And I'll tell you why, because I had almost every infertility problem known to man. I kind of knew, knew going into our pregnancy journey that it might be an issue. So I had endometriosis, which was a stage 4, it's pretty advanced endometriosis. I had uterine fibroids. I had PCOS. I had something called factor V Leiden, which I'm really passionate about sharing. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I had a double mutation for MTHFR. I also had thyroid disease. So I had a lot of strikes against me. And I guess in the back of my mind, like a lot of women, I just assumed that if we couldn't get pregnant on our own, that we would go to an infertility doctor and I would get some medication and I would do IVF or whatever it took to get pregnant. And when we got to that point of seeing a specialist after trying for a year, the magical year number that so many of us know, right? I was told that I was not a candidate for IVF. I was already hyperovulating, was 35 at the time. I was already hyperovulating, so the drugs like to stimulate you for IVF retrieval would not have worked for me because I was already maxed out in those hormone levels. So they did give us the option of doing IUI, but because my chances of that were so low, our chances of that were so low, we just decided that that was not going to be, we didn't have any male infertility issues. We just decided that that was not going to be a path that we were going to go on. And so I just started researching all the things that affect your fertility and what is in your control, what affects your fertility, what's in your control, and just researching what I could do about it. So
yeah, when I was on my journey, it was really surprising to me how much they don't teach in public education. Like they just brush the top of the subject and they don't really talk about anything.
right.
So
Most women don't have a good working knowledge of how their cycle works, what to expect, what the phases are, and things like that. And that's unfortunate.
yeah, I was on a big learning curve.
Yeah.
For sure. So um we know that emotions are stored in our body. How does that translate to um infertility?
Yeah. So part of my journey, and I know that this is true for you, part of my journey is a history of abuse, sexual abuse as a child. And, it's funny how things work out because while I was going through my infertility journey, I was also doing talk therapy. I was also just being led, is how I like to look at it, to all the things that I would need
Mhm.
to heal myself. So it hasn't been until recently that I've truly understood what that connection is in the body for the trauma,
Mhm.
and how what I was already doing was helping it. So the connection is really, um, so many times, and I, so many times people will look at women going through the infertility journey and say, "Oh, just relax. If you would just not, stress out, then you would just get pregnant." And that's not what we're talking about. I want to put that elephant out there in the room
Mhm.
to bed. We're not talking about telling you, "Oh, just relax and you'll get pregnant." However, when you experience trauma at any age, but especially as a child, it puts you into a constant state of fight or flight, which raises your cortisol levels, which raises um, messes all kinds of things up in your body. Let's just say that. I'm not a doctor. I don't want to try to explain it to you like on a doctor level, but it basically causes your stress response to be um, intensified constantly, which leads to all kinds of other problems in your body. So um, your liver is where a lot of your hormones are processed,
Mhm.
and so it causes, I don't want to even like say like liver dysfunction, but it causes your liver not to be able to do its job as well as it could.
Mhm.
Um, like in your case, I know that you shared with me you had cycle problems. That was never a problem for me. I had a regular cycle, but a lot of times that's a first line indicator that you've had trauma, and that you're in a constant state of fight or flight, is that your cycle will be very irregular. So one of the things that I did do to help with that and to help with my liver was acupuncture.
Oh,
That was a huge tool for me.
yeah. When I was growing up, I had, oh, there was a time around 8th grade where my cycle was so irregular, I was having more than one in a 30-day span.
Oh, wow.
And they were really hard to um, predict. Like I couldn't count on a calendar and circle a date and keep track of it that way. Um, it was it was awful
Yeah,
to say the least.
when you're a young woman and you can't predict when you're going to get your cycle and you're constantly in that heightened state of awareness, I mean, that alone would be a lot of stress for a young girl, right?
Mm. So, I was on birth control pills for like 10 years, and
Yeah.
those have their own set of issues that they can cause. So,
Yeah.
um, I
I
have,
mean, so many times that's a doctor's first line of defense, right? If your cycle's not regular, then they just put you on birth control. I always say, like, if you're not getting your cycle, like I've had friends that I've referred to my acupuncturist that were not getting their cycle, and she was able to get their cycle regular. Now that's something that Western medicine can't address.
mhm,
So some of the other ways that the trauma can be introduced into fertility problems, it's a cascade, right?
mhm,
So you have the trauma, and if you haven't dealt with the trauma, then you um, might use other coping mechanisms like food,
mhm,
right? Which can lead to the PCOS or aggravation of PCOS, aggravation of endometriosis. Um, so you might go to food, you might go to drugs, you might go to alcohol. So the trauma and creating the stress then creates this cascade of coping mechanisms that can affect your fertility and affect your hormone levels, affect your liver, and things like that. I'm just looking at my notes here. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention that's really interesting is that having a high state of cortisol all the time from that fight or flight actually shuts down your unnecessary system. So that's where the disruption of your reproductive cycle comes in, where you're not having regular periods. It's from that cortisol spike of constantly being like stressed. When people say, oh, just relax, it's not untrue, but it's also not helpful. So,
Yeah.
so the cortisol is actually shutting down your cycle, and it's actually shutting down any unnecessary systems because you're in that constant, like, state of fear, or
Yeah.
your body is, at least, right?
Yeah. And I can say from a health coach perspective that the heightened state of cortisol also slows down your digestion like
Mhm.
crazy. So you're not digesting your food and absorbing the nutrients from your food as well as you could be as well.
Right.
So
And there's all kinds of things
there's all
like
kinds of things that cause it.
enzymes, and yeah,
Yeah.
lots of things.
So maybe just share with us now um, the flip side. So you were struggling, and maybe just give us a little bit of the happy ending.
Yeah. So I'll ruin the ending for you. I have 4 healthy boys, and my first was conceived at 35. Excuse me. And then when we went to try again and saw it, just kind of see where things were, hormone levels and things
Mhm.
like that. Um, my hormone levels were so bad that they said, well, first of all, they said that we would have like less than a 1% chance of conceiving my oldest son. Then when we went back, they said you have better chances of winning the lottery than getting pregnant, and you're probably going to need donor eggs. And by the way, here's your pink slip. And they kicked us out of the practice. So one of the things that some people don't know about fertility doctors is that they get graded on their success rate. So if you're not a good candidate for them to have a successful outcome, then they'll get rid of you, right? Because
Mhm.
it messes with their statistics. So they kicked us out, and within 2 months, I had actually I went on a leave of absence from my job, which was very stressful at the time, and within 2 months of doing all that, was pregnant with my twins.
Wow.
Yeah. So then fast forward a couple years later, I actually lost a set of twins after that. And then my last son was born when I was 43. And yeah, so sorry, I got a little off track there talking about my boys, but um, the things that I did, like I said, acupuncture not only helps your body release some of that stored cortisol. It helps with the lymphatic system. It helps your kidneys and your liver process your hormones better. If you're having irregular cycles, um, it helps with that. It can help put your cycles back on track. If you're doing IVF, it can help with that as well and companion with that. So I really can't say enough good things about acupuncture for fertility.
Mhm.
Um, it helped me tremendously. And I was going to say something else. I didn't like needles. I really hated needles.
Yeah, I
Like
really
the
hate needles too.
idea, like everybody's, you say, oh, go see an acupuncture, and everyone's like, maybe not. Maybe I won't do that. You know,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
get
think
that.
so. Yeah. So, you know, you get to a point where you're just willing to do or try whatever it's going to take. And,
Mhm.
I had gotten to that point.
Oh, yeah, me too.
What I will tell you about acupuncture is the needles are smaller than a strand of hair. Um, I don't want to say they don't hurt, but everybody always equates it with a shot. It does not feel like a shot at all. And in terms of pain level, um, it's not like having your blood drawn. It's not like getting a shot or anything like that. It's actually more relaxing than a massage once you just get used to the process and, can kind of relax while the process is taking place. The needles are being put in instead of, tensing up and then, you can't even get them into the point. So I did some acupuncture. I told you I was doing some therapy. So I recommend, and from all the research that I've done and just my own personal experience, it's like anything else. You have to address it, body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
So, the acupuncture is the mind, maybe, or the body. So other things that might help with that are things like lymphatic massage might also help with that. Diet, of course, we all know that diet is super important. Getting those coping mechanisms out of the way and feeding your body, good fuel, and not putting extra burden on your body. Let's say that. So some people will say it's only a fill in the blank. It's only a cup of coffee. It's only a glass of wine. It's only a donut. It's only a whatever, right? But the fact of the matter is your body is struggling. You're not getting pregnant. Your cycle is not regular. Whatever your problem is, your body is struggling. Your body is telling you, like, I'm struggling. So to add any extra burden or any extra chemicals or any extra alcohol or caffeine really is a little bit of a soapbox for me, because caffeine really impedes mineral absorption. So when your body is trying to regulate itself for reproductive purposes, that's important. And then just addressing spiritual health, because let's face it, trauma comes with a lot of emotional and internal pain, and those things are not going to go away. What I'm saying to you is, if you're fortunate enough to get pregnant without addressing those, motherhood will bring those right to the surface.
Oh,
right?
so fast.
So yeah, really fast. So you're not going to get away from it. And so do whatever it's going to take for you to work through that, on all the different levels, is what I would recommend, because, the trauma is, it's, a part of you until it's not, right? Until it's addressed. So.
Yeah. And I just want to add that for those of us who have struggled with chronic cramping, period cramps, and ovulation cramps, doctors like to tell you that those are normal. They're not.
Right.
It's your body telling you that there's something off, and you need to listen to it and figure out what the issue is. For myself, I like fetal position, breathe through it like a contraction.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But like I've figured out what was lacking in my body, so now I don't have cramping at all for anything. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of pain is normalized in our society, right? I mean, even like, I'm postmenopausal now, and even my sister said to me yesterday, "Oh, you're having all the hot flashes and everything." And I was like, "No, I did not sign up for that. Nope." And it's not normal. It's something that's been ingrained in us that that's normal and that's what the next step of the process is, but it's really not.
It's really not.
One of the things that I wanted to say, and I'm trying to think of how to best frame this, is that because it's so sensitive. So when you're sexually abused as a child, and even as a young adult, there's a lot of coping mentally that you have put in place. And I don't want to get off of here without saying this, because I really hope that it will help somebody. So for me, I remembered, not initially, but I don't have a lot of, thank God, a lot of flashbacks or, actual memory, like, real-time memories. But one of the things I did remember was oh my gosh, I don't want to get pregnant. 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 Like just praying that what was happening to me would not make me pregnant. And so when that happens and you are trying to get pregnant, if you don't deal with that stuckness in your body, I don't know how else to put it, you have to reset your brain to allow yourself to realize that you're safe and everything is okay, right? One of the things for me, and I'm a Christian, I don't know, not everybody is, but I went to a Reiki healer, kind of not knowing what I was getting myself into. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what that meant. I actually just went for a massage, and she was like, "Yeah, like I'm just being honest with you." She's like, "Yeah, like I'm a Reiki healer," and I was like, "Oh, that feels." And I said, "Well, what is it like? Do you turn it? Is it like turning it off and on, kind of thing?" And she's like, "No, if I give you a massage, then, hands on, Reiki on is what she said to me." But the interesting part of the story that I'm telling you is that she was able to tell me something about my abuse that unlocked something for me that allowed me to process it and allowed me to move past it.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and I really believe that it was integral in my healing. So, I think that there's a lot of things that can come into play to help you discover and identify, um, ways to help yourself heal.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any questions in the comments. So if anybody has any questions when they are watching this, just pop them in the comments and I will um, forward them to Erica so she can answer anything if I'm unable to answer it. Um, yeah, so thank you so much for joining me, and
Thank you.
we'll be talking soon. Have a
Okay,
good
see
day.
you next time. You too.
Bye.